This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
Tonight, change of plans. A Nova Scotia school backtracks on its uniform request for Remembrance Day. Out-of-province care, a court ruling and the Premier's apology offers hope for patients denied treatment. And on the campaign trail, the PCs are the latest to release their election platform.
Temperatures falling tonight as scattered showers mix with flurries throughout the day on Saturday with some gusty winds. Improvements for Sunday. Your full forecast is coming up.
Good evening. A school in Middle Sackville backtracked from its request that service members not wear military uniforms to its Remembrance Day ceremony that was held earlier today. A November newsletter from Sackville Heights Elementary invited armed forces members to attend its ceremony, but asked that all attendees arrive in civilian attire, saying, quote, "We recognize and celebrate the diverse makeup of our school community and want to maintain a welcoming environment for all." But after heavy backlash, the decision was reversed. In an email to families Thursday night, the school's principal, Rachel Webster, apologized, saying, quote, "I want to assure you that we have the utmost respect for what the uniform represents." She went on to say students attending the school come from countries experiencing conflict and have expressed discomfort with images of war, including military uniforms. Shelley Whitman, executive director of the Dallaire Institute, says on Remembrance Day, the presence of uniformed service members can provide a valuable learning opportunity for students.
For us at the Dallaire Institute, we do work around the world to teach military and police how to interact with children in a way which protects children and prevents violations and what their roles are. But we could also be doing that in a Canadian context, making sure that we find ways for them to also express the fact that they have a duty in protecting children around the world, and for children to understand that and expect what should be the roles and the expectations of well-trained professional soldiers as well.
Whitman says she understands that children who've come from conflict zones might feel uncomfortable at the sight of uniforms, but she says the school could have done a better job of explaining its position. Two Nova Scotia women are still processing how their lives could soon change following a groundbreaking court decision on out-of-province care. Angela McIver has more on what it could mean for Nova Scotians with similar conditions.
For Crystal Ellingson and Jennifer Brady, winning a judicial review against Nova Scotia's Department of Health took 2 years of fighting the province in court. Before that, both women spent months applying for out-of-province care, being denied at every turn. The reason was they didn't have a referral from a Nova Scotia specialist, but in both cases, there is no such doctor here who specializes in their conditions. Ellingson has lipedema. It causes painful tissue buildup in her legs. Her family's now in crippling debt, having spent more than $100,000 on 4 surgeries in Germany.
I was quickly needing a walking aid, and then, of course, it would be a wheelchair from there. I couldn't play with my kids. I could barely get up the stairs at night.
Ellingson says after a 3rd surgery, she was able to climb 8 flights of stairs. Brady has lymphedema, which leads to a painful accumulation of fluid in her legs. She spent $65,000 on 1 surgery in Japan, but she says further treatment is needed.
My life revolves around managing my legs and experiencing pain every day. I'm doing all this work to manage this disease, and it continues to get worse and causes me tremendous pain.
Now, help could be on the way following a ruling from Nova Scotia Supreme Court Justice Timothy Gabriel. He determined the province's refusals were procedurally unfair. That prompted an apology from Premier Tim Houston, along with a promise to reimburse the women's expenses and review similar cases. Houston also asked the Auditor General to review how out-of-province claims are managed.
It's one thing to say it, but it's another thing to do it. Justice Gabriel wants this kind of wrapped up within the next 30 days. And that's a huge deal too, because this could drag on like our judicial review did for years.
The Lymphedema Association of Nova Scotia is also paying close attention since approximately 20,000 Nova Scotians have the condition.
It makes us want to be optimistic that things can change for people living with lymphedema here in Nova Scotia. But based on the current situation of an election being called, it does make us feel a bit tentative as well, because we need to wait and see how things turn out after November 26th, and then we can become more excited about it.
Both Brady and Ellingson are adding up the financial toll, but Brady says she can't help but feel angry after fighting so long for treatment she's now being told she deserved. Angela McIver, CBC News, Halifax.
Questions are mounting about why a youth mental health nonprofit closed its doors in Halifax and Yarmouth this year. One former staff member is speaking out about what he says is the reason. Nicholas Sagan reports.
This mental health drop-in center has been closed for months, and people are wondering what happened. In August, Langhouse posted this notice saying it would be temporarily closing its Halifax location to reflect on its model and plan for the future. It also closed its Yarmouth location in March. But some people who used the service thought there was more to it. And now former staff are revealing what went on behind closed doors.
It was a lot of gossiping, a lot of backbiting, a lot of dishonesty from the director. And what resulted in that was a very tense and very stressful work environment.
Bullard calls it a toxic workplace, saying he and more than a dozen other staff came together to make a wave of complaints against the employer, leading to the closure. CBC heard from other former Langhouse staff with similar claims, and the union representing them backs this up.
There had been some ongoing issues within the workplace that we were working with the members and with the employer on. And then 4 o'clock on a Friday before Labor Day weekend, we got notice that they were closing the facility.
Nobody from Langhouse would do an interview, but the board chair says the charity is doing some strategic planning and hiring a new executive director, and a reopening date will be announced soon. The board chair did not address the toxic workplace allegations, and we didn't hear back from the former executive director. Mullen says she's been writing to government officials asking them to intervene, since the organization gets more than $400,000 in public funding per year and serves many vulnerable people.
It's a serious concern that they would allow this to happen.
Bullard says he and other staff often think of the youth who were members of Langhouse.
It's a devastating blow, I think, to the mental health community as a whole, that such a beacon of light like Langhouse is no longer operating, and I'm not sure how they're doing, but I just hope that they get the help they need.
We've heard from many members who say Langhouse saved them or had a huge impact on their lives. They say there's no other organization like it, so they're hoping to get good news soon. Nicola Sagan, CBC News, Halifax.
Okay, Ryan, we made it to Friday, and now the weekend to look forward to. Weather-wise,
yeah, it's definitely going to be a bit of a wild ride. I mean, we're going to have some very windy conditions. We're going to have some beautiful conditions. We're going to have some wet conditions as we look ahead to remember and stay in that all-important forecast. Thank you so much, Amy. As we look at the temperatures for Saturday, just 3 to 5 degrees. So it is going to be a much cooler day than what we've been seeing lately. Those northerly winds sustain near 40, even 50 kilometers per hour at times, especially in through Cape Breton and the northeast. Gusts 60, 70, 80 kilometers per hour. The greatest chance of getting up near 80 will be Cape Breton and in the Tri-County area and coastal areas. So it's going to be blustery for sure. This is the front that ushers in that cooler air, and yes, showers and flurries mixing in through Saturday. Higher terrain areas, maybe even a little bit of a coating, especially the Cape Breton Highlands. As I mentioned, Sunday looks fantastic, and then we're tracking a system for Monday. We'll break it all down with your full forecast in just a few minutes.
All right, lots on the go. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
The Nova Scotia Progressive Conservatives are the latest party to release their election platform. Michael Gorman was there, and he brings us this report.
With the second week of the provincial election campaign nearing an end, it was PC leader Tim Houston's turn to release his party's platform. Houston says the document is a continuation of the work the Tories did during their first mandate.
When we took office, Nova Scotia's economy was falling behind the rest of the country, and our healthcare system was just breaking at the seams. And today we're making real progress. Over the last 12 months, Nova Scotia has outperformed Canada as a whole in employment growth, exports, and retail growth. We've come a long way since 2021.
On healthcare, Houston says the PCs would keep doing what they've been doing, with a focus to attract and retain more healthcare workers through expanded scopes of practice, training opportunities, and financial incentives. This campaign, the Tories are promising a province-wide travel nurse program that would mean the end of using private agencies in 4 years. There's also a promise to cover the cost of the shingles vaccine for people 65 and older and create a menopause center of excellence to focus on women's health. Houston says the Tory housing plan from their first term has led to the biggest jump in housing starts since 1986, and the party will continue down that path. This campaign, they've announced a first-time home buyers program requiring a lower down payment on homes less than $500,000. The PCs also say they'll make more Crown land available to people who develop affordable housing that's 80% of market rates. Despite increasing rents and low vacancies, Houston says the PCs are making progress.
We got the work 3 years ago. That work is continuing, and we feel that urgency, and we'll continue on it.
PC affordability measures include promises to lower the HST by 1 percentage point, increase the minimum wage, and lower the small business tax. The party points to steps during their first mandate, including a school lunch program and indexing income tax brackets and income assistance to the rate of inflation as other ways they've made life more affordable. There's a pledge to cap power rate increases to the Canadian average increase. And there's also a plan to invest in HRM roads, remove bridge tolls, and explore light rail, all in an effort to address traffic congestion. Promises in the platform would cost $142 million in the first year and top $200 million by year 4. The PCs say they would run deficits their first 3 years of a new mandate and be in surplus by year 4. Michael Gorman, CBC News, Halifax.
Meanwhile, the Green Party of Nova Scotia has officially launched its campaign in the province. There are 23 Greens on the ballot. Party leader Anthony Edmonds says candidates are ready to work with the other main parties to bring about much-needed changes in Nova Scotia.
I think Greens have walked the walk on collaboration, and Greens do have a demonstrated track record of being collaborative. So I think for any Nova Scotians who would like to see a better future where politicians do work together, where there is more collaboration in the legislature, I think Greens have rightfully earned their support.
Edmonds points to what Greens have accomplished in neighboring Prince Edward Island. He says the party pushed the government there to green its fleet of school buses. Elsewhere on the campaign trail, Nova Scotia Liberal leader Zach Churchill says if his party is elected, it will enact a plan for improving health outcomes for women. That includes requiring half of all provincial funding for health research to be used to study women's health.
We will name a Minister of Women's Health to ensure a gender lens is applied to every department, to the delivery of health care, and a blueprint is adopted for improving women's health here in Nova Scotia.
Meanwhile, NDP leader Claudia Chender was in Cape Breton, where she announced that an NDP government would increase transfer payments to Cape Breton Regional Municipality. The annual payment to CBRM is currently $15 million. Chender says she would double it to $30 million.
All Cape Bretoners deserve better than the dismissive treatment that they have received from the Houston government. Your hard-earned public dollars should be spent improving the communities you love so that everyone in Cape Breton can thrive.
The province changed its service exchange agreement with municipalities last year, allowing CBRM to cut taxes by $4.5 million. A damaged crane that was deemed a threat to the McDonald Bridge and nearby buildings has now been secured, and the evacuation order for surrounding streets has been lifted. About 20 people were told to leave their homes and were provided with temporary accommodations last night. Halifax Fire say supports were not connected to the main frame. The municipality says the crane has been stabilized. The plan now is to dismantle the crane in phases, which could take some time. After the crane has been disassembled, the Department of Labor will investigate the cause of the incident. The bridge reopened to traffic this morning. Yes, some folks ferrying their way across the harbor. We've got Ryan up next with his full weather forecast. We'll see you on the other side of the break. Welcome back. For the first time in a Nova Scotia provincial election, tablets will be used during early voting. The CBC's Ali Thompson explains how it works.
Residents who choose to vote early will be doing so by electronic tablet, being referred to as e-ballots by Elections Nova Scotia. That's not to be confused with internet voting, which is not yet available in the provincial election. Here's how e-ballots work. When residents check in to a voting location, they will be given a paper envelope with a barcode. They will go behind the voting booth and hold the barcode up to the scanner. The ballot will then load onto the tablet screen, and the voter will make their selection. It will then print out a paper copy of the ballot, which voters will fold, slip into the provided envelope, and then stick into the ballot box, just like a traditional ballot. The printout ballot is for backup in case the electronics fail, and also for auditing purposes after the election. Elections Nova Scotia says the new system was developed because counting early ballots took a long time in previous elections.
This was the 2017 provincial general election. We experienced really long periods of trying to count all the early votes in paper ballot because the trend in Canada is that voters are choosing early voting options. We were counting into the wee hours of the next morning. So we found a solution. We decided to digitalize the count for early votes. And that meant that those votes could be counted quickly, basically with the push of a button that the early votes are counted. That means that the bulk of votes can be counted ahead of time.
Shelton says e-balloting was used with great success in both the Preston and Pictou West by-elections. If the electronics do fail for any reason, there are contingency kits with traditional paper ballots. And on election day, you can expect to see the paper ballots you're used to.
Early childhood education students with the NSCC's Afrocentric cohort gathered to celebrate today. They marked what will soon be the end of a 2-year program. It is the second cohort for the program, which aims to encourage more Black students to enter the field. And students say their class has become a tight-knit group.
I'm so excited. This is probably, I think, on my car ride over, I kept saying over and over again, I'm done. This is really, the 2 years flew by. It was best experience of my life. We got so many relationships out of it that are lifelong. It's amazing.
How does it feel to be here? It feels great. I feel accomplished. I was extremely nervous, but I'm having a good time, and I'm just proud to celebrate with my cohort. The class itself is amazing. It's opened up so many different doors for my career, but also I've gotten to know myself so much better. I feel like I have a newfound confidence from this class, so I'm really thankful to Justin for that.
This is a celebration of 2 years. So each student got to put on their own exhibit of their artwork or their coursework that they felt really connected to over the last 2 years in the spirit of Ubuntu, which is community togetherness. And you'll see in the center table is a lot of group work that they did together, and then on the outside is kind of a shared experience.
It's a complete safe space in our classroom. We're just there being ourselves all the time. And how we're all alike one another, we can all relate to a lot of issues and topics, and we all love the same music and interests. And so yeah, we really just became one big family.
I'm just so excited to see where we go from here and how we grow together and support each other and lean on each other.
All right, Ryan, it sounds like we're in for an interesting weekend weather-wise.
That's a great way of putting it. An absolutely great way. Yeah, so blustery on Saturday, beautiful on Sunday, keeping an eye on that wet weather for Monday. Those are the headlines. We'll, of course, break it down in full detail here for you now. And again, it is November, so
yes,
expecting a little bit of everything anyway. Have a look at, our Nova Scotia webcam video. Downtown Halifax.
Argyle Street all lit up, huh?
Yeah, and a few folks on the go there. Quite a few folks. It is Friday evening, I guess.
Yes, that's true.
And it is a pretty nice one. We are looking at some scattered showers to move into the area. So if you are heading out this evening, you're going to want to make sure you've got at least the rain jacket on hand. As you can see, temperatures out there right now, pretty mild, 10 degrees in Halifax. 11 in Lunenburg, 6 in Cheticamp. That's one of our cooler spots. 8 in Sydney. As we look at the winds right now, yeah, breezy, and they are going to get even breezier. In fact, really quite windy set for Saturday, as we will see here in just a moment. Those gusts, not too gusty out there right now, right around the 40 kilometer per hour range. Now, this is the front that we're watching, and it's actually been sparking up even a few rumbles of thunder in New Brunswick. Not expecting that's going to continue into Nova Scotia. Already seeing some showers edging their way into Cape Breton, the Northumberland shore, Colchester, Cumberland, and a couple of showers starting to move through the valley. And this is going to be what pushes in to the Halifax area and that South Shore region later on this evening. That low will be moving off to the east. This area of high pressure will settle in with that reinforced northerly wind for Saturday, and then we're going to calm the skies for Sunday before that next system starts to roll in. And you can see that warmest of air now pushing way down into the U.S. South, so temps have been bumping up quite nicely for the last couple of days out in the western parts of Canada. Temperatures tonight, 2 to 4 degrees for overnight lows, and it won't get a whole lot warmer than that once the sun rises tomorrow. So those scattered showers tonight, looking like we're going to be pretty much done with that first wave along the front by the time we get to the early overnight hours. Tomorrow morning, with this northerly flow, more scattered showers, and yes, the chance for some flurries and snow pellets or grapple mixing in pretty much everywhere from Yarmouth right to Sydney and all areas in between. We will see some sunny breaks as well, but it is going to be super unsettled tomorrow. One of those days where it's sunny, then it's raining, then it's sunny again, and then it snows for a minute, and then it's sunny again. One of those days. Note tomorrow morning around 7 a.m., some gusts approaching 70, even 80 kilometers per hour coastal Tri-County area. And then everybody picks up in terms of the winds by the time we get to lunchtime. Widespread gusts 60, 70, some gusts closer to 80 kilometers per hour possible here in the Tri-County area and Guysborough and across Cape Breton as well. Those are going to be the best chance of getting into that 80, maybe even 90 kilometer per hour threshold. But pretty breezy and pretty gusty for everybody, no doubt. And then for Saturday evening, the winds backing off for western areas, staying gusty into tomorrow evening for Cape Breton. Highs of just 3 to 4 degrees. So it is going to be a raw day coming in with that wind coming in from the Gulf. 4 or 5 degrees for central parts of Nova Scotia. Again, some sun breaks, but a chance for some showers mixed with some flurries. And same story for the west, where again, we will see some very gusty winds. Now, you can see those flurries lingering even into Sunday morning. The highlands could pick up even 5 to 10 centimeters by Sunday morning with that onshore flow. Sunday, beautiful. 6 to 9 degrees, looking really, really nice. Mostly sunny skies, winds light. Speaking of temperatures, Remembrance Day at 11 a.m. Looks like we should be near the double-digit mark for most of us. In the east, a little bit cooler, but in the east, dry. And that is what we're timing out here now, is this next system. Increasing clouds Sunday night, the rain arriving Monday morning in the Tri-County area, pausing this at 11 to 11:30. Halifax, Amherst, Truro, west of that line, this is going to be our best chance of rain for the ceremonies on Monday morning. Unfortunately, further east as of now, looks like you should remain dry, but pack an umbrella. And then we are looking at that rain to push west to east across the province through the Monday afternoon time period. Again, it will be mild, but it will be damp. So make sure you're prepared and ready to go. Some lingering showers for Tuesday, even in the east on Wednesday, and then drying out. But yeah, the next 7 days looking very November-like.
Definitely. All right. Thanks for that, Ryan.
Thank you.
Everybody I felt the same, I think, as I did. It's like we're can we really believe we're here?
Coming up, a Nova Scotia author and educator is named to the Order of Canada. A Nova Scotia author and educator is now an officer in the Order of Canada. Sherry Fitch was recently invested in a ceremony in Ottawa, and I'm here in River John with Sherry. So first of all, congratulations. What a big deal this is.
Oh, Amy, it is for me too. I mean, when I got the news, I knew that I had been nominated years ago, but I think with COVID and I totally actually forgot. Like I had forgotten that that had happened, and so they emailed, and then please email us back. And then I got a phone call, and I actually couldn't speak, and the woman on the other end was so nice, and she's like, I said, you have the best job in the world, don't you, calling people and telling them this? And she was so lovely, and it was a surprise, and it was overwhelming, and I was grateful. And then it took a couple of years for the ceremony, and that's a whole other thing.
Well, tell me about that. That must have been exciting.
Well, I was supposed to go in May and didn't go in May because of obvious reasons in my family. There were things that happened. So I just couldn't think of celebrating in that kind of space. So that's why they said, it's okay, you can come in the fall. So it really gave me something to look forward to. So my sister came with me and my mentor, Amy. Now for me, this is really important because my mentor, her name is Dr. Mary Lou Sterling, and she was the first person who said to me, when you get published, not if you get published, there'll be a whole lot of teachers who will find a lot of joy and be able to encourage children with their reading. And I just remember thinking, when I get published, and you know how I got connected to her? My mother was a secretary at the Faculty of Education, and I had poems, and she typed them up and she gave them to a couple professors, and they went like, yeah, they're nice. And then she gave them to Mary Lou, and Mary Lou came rushing into her office and said, I want to meet your daughter. I want to have coffee with her. And I'll never forget that open door to say, I believe in you. I know you're a single parent and you want to be a poet. That sounds a little crazy, but there's a way to do this. And so by her opening that door, I call her a permissionary. So she's in her 80s, and so she was there. Wow. So for me, that belongs to her. It belongs to every early childhood educator who ever put my books in the hands of kids. And I really believe that, Amy, because it's not just me saying it. I learned over the years from those teachers. Like I would go to the school and do I stuck my toes in my nose, and then they would send me follow-ups that, the kids would do the poems that I had encouraged them to do with their own voices and their own creativity. But it was teachers, those intermediaries, that really brought my books to life. So I did. By the time I stepped up there, I thought, this does not belong to me. It belongs to Mary Lou, my family who supported me, my boys who inspired it all. But really, early childhood educators, they are the ones who made Sherry Fitch. Really, they are. And I'm so grateful.
And you had a brush with celebrity up there too.
Oh, that was so cool. I was like, oh, and there was Sandra Oh, and I guess we were all, the other people were so amazing and fascinating, but of course she was the one that everybody knew. And but I met geologists and a choral conductor, Eleanor Daly, just really accomplished people that you're just in awe of, dancers and artists and scientists, and everybody I felt the same, I think, as I did. It's like we're can we really believe we're here? Like we're here, this is so cool. But Sandra Oh was so gracious, and I said to my sister, I want a picture with her, right? So I went up to her and I was like, I have a story to tell you, but I know everybody wants to tell you a story, but could I maybe just get my picture with you? And she goes, no, tell me the story.
Oh, that's great.
I'm like, really? And she goes, yeah, so I did. And then she goes, can I give you a hug? I'm like, Sandra, hug me. So, but she was just like another person there too, just going, I love my country. I love being recognized for really a lifetime of work that I was passionate about. And that's the other thing. It's like, in the early days, Amy, I remember people saying, what do you mean you're going to come and do poetry in schools? Like, much has happened in the almost 40 years since Toes in My Nose was published. And it is a really wonderful, wow, I wanted to make my little boy happy, and I studied for 7 years, studied nonsense for 7 years, who does that? I used to say I take my nonsense seriously, serious joy though, and I wanted the scholarship behind children's literature because it's amazing how people go, well, kids' books. I used to teach children's writing for children, and sometimes I get people in my class and they're going, well, I want to be a writer, so I thought I'd start with something easy. And I used to go, well, you might have come to the wrong class, because yes, anybody can write, but what makes excellence and what makes longevity, and how do you look through the eyes of a child? And you're not writing for children, you're writing from the child sense of wonder that you always had, and trying to reclaim that magic. And I mean, I've always felt, this might sound a bit much, but it's like a manifestation of spirit. Like, so they're glad songs. I mean, writing, you know, Mabel Maple's house is purple, so is Mabel's hair. That makes me happy when I create that, when it comes from that place. And then offering it to someone, well, that's where the magic happens. So I often think I'm more, you know, storyteller in that oral tradition than I really am poet or anything else. But the doing of the poetry in those classrooms and in those small towns, and like, that's a lifetime of work that I owe those people to invite me in to their classrooms and libraries and that.
Now, you mentioned some hard times that you had,
yes.
But your late husband and your mom did know about this before they passed,
Yes,
right?
they did, and that was so great. And I was just explaining, you know, my husband was like, of course you deserve it, because I was like, I know, and of course you do. And my mother was like, what took them so long? Because that would be my mom, just so believed in me, the one who typed up those poems and gave them to Mary Lou and said, my daughter wants to be a writer, and she's got 2 children and she wants to go to university, and you know, and then somebody opens the door. So we all stand on the shoulders of all those who come before us, and it was so emotional. And the other thing, Amy, is that Sandra was wonderful, so were the other people I met, but you know, coming from Mary Simon, for me, what people might not know is I worked on and off up in Nunavut for over 25 years. I started going there in the late 80s, and I worked with a lot of children and a lot of teachers and a lot of women up there in literacy programs and creative writing programs. And so for me to get that from Mary Simon was like this incredible full circle, because I admire her so much, and I learned more up north than I ever taught, let me tell you. This scarf I wore, and it came from Susan Aglucart. So yeah, so that was another nice circle in time that happened. I love that.
Well, it was a great moment, and it's very well deserved. So thank you for telling us about it.
Thank you. Well, thank you. You know, it's nice to celebrate in the midst of hard times, too.
It sure is.
Yeah, thank you.
Coming up, police arrest dozens of people in the Netherlands after fans of an Israeli soccer team were attacked in the streets of Amsterdam. Welcome back. Leaders expressed outrage today after what Dutch officials called anti-Semitic rioting overnight in Amsterdam. The Dutch Prime Minister says he's horrified and ashamed. Israel's Prime Minister called it a reoccurrence of 1930s anti-Jewish violence. The target was soccer fans from Israel. The CBC's Crystal Gamansing reports.
Unbearable and indigestible. Those were the words used by Amsterdam's Mayor Femke the violence after the Maccabi Tel Aviv match against Ajax. She described attacks against Israeli fans as hit and runs, saying men on scooters were searching for them specifically.
Boys on scooters crossed the city in search of Maccabi Tel Aviv supporters. It was a hit and run.
Amsterdam's chief of police said Maccabi supporters attacked a taxi and set a Palestinian flag on fire Wednesday, the day before the attacks on Israeli fans. Now, there is video on game day, Thursday, showing Israeli fans lighting flares in the city and at times chanting inflammatory and derogatory things about Arabs. The CEO of the team, Ben Mansford, arrived back in Israel at Ben Gurion Airport and told reporters the atmosphere inside the stadium was good and how he was shocked at how the night unfolded.
Obviously, we're absolutely devastated. We get on that plane on Wednesday to play a game of football, and the reason you're all at the airport is not because of a game of football. Thank God we believe that all of our fans are accounted for.
Fans also expressed their fear and shock.
Seems like it was organized. There was a lot of people. They saw everyone in yellow. They jumped on us.
The Dutch Prime Minister denounced what he called anti-Semitic violence, saying he was ashamed of what unfolded on the streets of Amsterdam.
The things that happened this evening, of last night, are just terrible, horrific. And as I said, I'm utterly ashamed of that happened in the Netherlands.
Police in Amsterdam say the investigation is ongoing. Israel's President Isaac Herzog spoke with the King of Netherlands, William Alexander, and he posted a recap of that conversation on X, writing in part that he urged that every possible measure be taken on the streets of Amsterdam to halt this terrible wave of anti-Semitic hatred. Crystal Gamansing, CBC News, London.
Black people across the U.S. are reacting with shock and anger after receiving racist text messages. Authorities are now investigating at a tense time following Donald Trump's re-election on Tuesday. Nick Harper reports from Washington.
These messages appeared on phones right across the United States, instructing people by name to report to their nearest plantation, where executive slave catchers would pick them up in a brown van at a specific time and place. For the Black Americans receiving those messages, it's creating anger and confusion.
I was shocked. I was scared. I was nervous. I was upset.
Multiple US agencies, including the FBI and Justice Department, are now involved as they try to find out who was behind the messages that were received across more than a dozen states. The FBI has described the language as offensive and racist. And the exact language varied, but the common theme was telling the recipient they had been selected to pick cotton. In some cases, pre-teens at middle school and teenagers in high school received the texts. It comes in the wake of Tuesday's presidential election, and at a time when many people of colour are feeling anxious about what a second Donald Trump presidency may bring. One former police chief feels the messages were timed to coincide with Trump's win.
The messages are likely coming from somewhere else or overseas to instill fear and divide all of us into some level of hatred.
The National Association for the Advancement of Coloured People says hateful rhetoric from the president-elect is to blame. In a statement, the NAACP said the messages were the unfortunate reality of electing a president who it said had embraced and encouraged hate. The Trump campaign has distanced itself from the messages, saying it had absolutely nothing to do with them. Nick Harper for CBC News, Washington.
Some of the thousands of people who fled a wildfire in Southern California are being allowed to return to what's left of their homes. The fire started Wednesday in Ventura County and has destroyed at least 130 structures. Steve Futterman reports.
You can see the home behind me. This is one of 132 homes that have been burned down completely, and another 88 have been severely damaged. We expect those numbers to rise. It's been a very difficult 48 hours for fire crews battling this fire both on the ground and from the air.
Devastation. I lost everything. The home I was in, I rented for 5 years, and it's completely wiped out.
We didn't get any kinds of warning. Right away, we have to evacuate with simple clothes, and I lost my everything, every single piece of my documents, everything, my money, everything.
Today, people who live in this neighborhood were assessing the damage. We spoke to one woman who lives in a home where the fire came within 50 meters.
It's just a lot of anxiety and heartbreak, and you just feel so sad for the families that have lost their homes. And we love our neighborhood, so it's just really, it's heartbreaking to see it.
This fire captain talked about the difficulty of battling the blaze.
We had from small vegetation on fire to trees to 10, 20, 30 homes well involved all at the same time.
And then there are scenes like this. This home destroyed. Next door, no damage at all. On some streets, it's home after home after home. This is the area that was hardest hit, Old Coach Drive. You see that home? And look down here, look down this street. Home after home after home no longer exists. The Santa Ana winds, which again are the culprit in all this, they're an annual tradition here in Southern California. They have died down to a great extent today, but there's still a slight breeze right now. They come and go. They should stay relatively low for the next 48 hours. Fire crews hope to get the upper hand on the fire during that time. But the Santa Ana winds are going to be back next week. It may not hit Camarillo, but other fire-prone areas are going to have to be on alert for the next month or so. Steve Futterman for CBC News, Camarillo, California.
Canada's unemployment rate remained at 6.5% in October, according to today's monthly report from StatsCan. The 15,000 jobs added to the economy weren't enough to alter last month's rate. At the same time, the rise in wages continued, with the hourly average almost 5% higher than last October. Still, today's report found almost 29% of those over 15 were living in a household struggling to meet financial needs. Vegetable growers in Labrador have dug up what may be one of the largest turnips in the world, weighing in at 16.5 kilograms or more than 36 pounds. The root vegetable was dug up by a couple a few weeks ago, and as Jeremy Eaton explains, you're gonna need a bigger knife than you'd think.
Oh my God. For many Labradorians and Newfoundlanders, the humble turnip is a staple of Sunday supper.
Oh my God.
This turnip, though, is something worth bragging about.
Never imagined it was going to turn out to be the size that it is.
The average turnip can fit in your hand, weighing about a few hundred grams. This monster, hauled from the earth in western Labrador, more than 16 kilograms.
Only normally like the size of a softball, maybe a little bigger, but this one turned into be 36.5 pounds.
If you're thinking, that's gotta be a record, it was close. Up until 2021, the world record was 17.7 kilograms. That's when a Quebec man grew a Titanic turnip, 29 kilograms, almost 64 pounds.
I found out that the largest one for Guinness Book of World Records is 63.9. And the next one to that is 39. And then I think this one might be the third one from that, which is 36.5. So I'm hoping next year. You never know.
It's not a trophy turnip. It's meant to be eaten.
What do you think? I think we should do center. I'd like to.
No kitchen knife needed here. Just a massive blade wielded by Jerry Bellows. And still a bit of a struggle.
Give it another take. Should have had chains out.
The humble turnip, no match for the mighty blade.
Oh my gosh, what a beauty. Oh my goodness. Look at that. Holy. Few feeds of turnip mash now and a couple jig standers. That'll take that.
However, the couple couldn't wait to cook it.
Very impressed. Because I honestly didn't know how it was going to taste either where it's so big. Because a lot of people say when you get big turnips or big vegetables,
Oh, look
at
it. It is good. Excellent. Sweet.
very
That
good.
it is.
Very good. Oh my gosh. I can't even believe it.
Jeremy Eaton, CBC News, St. John's.
Yeah, a lot of folks very curious about Monday with the Remembrance Day ceremonies and the weather.
And it is, I mean, it's going to come down to a couple of hours, but, you know, for the big ceremony in Halifax, it's looking like it's probably going to be like right on the doorstep. So if it's not raining when it starts, it may be raining by the time it finishes. So make sure you've got the umbrella handy.
Dress accordingly.
Just in case. Have a look at our viewer picture of the day. We're going to start there. We're going to zoom in Beaverbank on Barrett Lake in Beaverbank, and have a look
Wow,
at this.
still lots of leaves on the trees.
Yeah,
huh?
I'm not exactly sure when Ben took this photo. It could have been a couple of days ago, because it seems like the leaves have really been, flying over the last week. They've really been shedding, and a lot more to fall tomorrow for sure in those winds. Thank you so much for that, Ben. Ryan's picks at cbc.ca, and yeah, what leaves are hanging on right now many are going to be lost tomorrow with those northerly winds that are going to be gusting 60, 70, 80 kilometers per hour. Best chances for seeing those 80 kilometer per hour gusts are going to be the Tri-County area, Guysborough County, and Cape Breton. It is definitely going to be a windy day. We're going to be looking at a calmer day and a brighter day on Sunday. Should mention Saturday. I think I blew right through that graphic without saying the chance of flurries mixing in with those showers tomorrow. So yeah, we are looking at a nicer day on Sunday with a mix of sun and cloud to even mainly sunny skies in the west. And then for Monday, again, we're looking at temperatures eventually getting into the 12 to 13 range for many of us. Looks like for most of 11 a.m., most of the province looking at temperatures around 8 to 10 with that wet weather tracking in. And we'll take one quick look at this again. I believe we have enough time to get there. There's Saturday. So comes the system on Sunday. And again, looking at that rain arriving from west to east, and there's 11 a.m. So on the doorstep for sure.
All right. Well, a trip to Toronto often means a stop at the CN Tower, and this week a couple of visiting ambassadors made the ride up. Yes, Dawson and Pacey are ambassadors for this year's Royal Agriculture Winter Fair. The Alpaca half-brothers had already done some sightseeing in Toronto.
They took in the whole city all at once. The fair, they are, of course, greeting guests and helping with award presentations. They'll also be part of an alpaca show on Sunday.
Guess they're not afraid of heights either.
No, definitely not.
That's it for us tonight. Thanks for watching and have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend.